Let's now talk about the impact that the Israel-Hamas war is having on the rest of the world. I'm not getting into the economic implications or the political reactions. I'm talking about the impact it is having on us, on our minds. The scenes of destruction, the violence, the bloodshed have all resulted in the constant fear of violence. The fear of death is in the air. The fear of the unknown. Our next report telling you more.
This is the Bibliothèque François Mitterrand station in Paris. On Tuesday, this station made its way to global headlines. Here's what happened. A veiled woman was making threats, shouting out Allahu Akbar. And you're all going to die. The French police shot and wounded the woman because they feared for their safety. The woman threatened to blow herself up and the police fired a shot, which led to a life-threatening injury. Now, the way things stand, police have launched 2 investigations. They're looking at finding answers. One probe will look into the woman's actions, while the other one will basically determine whether the use of a firearm by the police was justified. But the thing is, the country has been under attack alert for a while now, specifically since the 13th of October. That was when a school teacher was murdered in a suspected Islamist attack. It has been linked to what the officials have called a jihadist atmosphere linked to the Israel-Hamas war. This is what the fear of violence can do. Here's another incident. This one was caused by a translation mishap. A tourist at a Lisbon restaurant wanted a pomegranate juice, but things went horribly wrong when this absolutely innocent order led to a bomb scare. The Russian speaker from Azerbaijan used a translation app. The aim was to translate the word pomegranate into Portuguese. But the application mistook it for the word grenade. He wrote down the translation on a napkin. The napkin was given to the waiter. The waiter saw the word grenade. The result, in one word, was panic. It was perceived as a bomb threat. The tourist was taken into custody. He was questioned. The Lisbon police even consulted the counter-terrorism unit. But ultimately, the conclusion was that there was no real threat. By the way, in October, the country's terror threat level was brought up to significant from moderate. The trigger for this were the terror incidents in Belgium in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
But what is not lost in translation is the fact that this is the extent to which the fear of violence as a result of the war is making its presence felt. Death is in the air, and the fear of the unknown is palpable.
Meanwhile, Iran has warned Israel of harsh consequences if the bombing of the Gaza Strip continues. Iran's foreign minister has said, and I'm quoting, if this war is not stopped immediately and the joint attacks against civilians, the women and children of Gaza by America and Israel are not halted, then the consequences of those who are waging this war will be grave. WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal caught up with Iran's ambassador to India to understand the country's stand on the war. Here's an excerpt from that conversation.
The situation in West Asia is concerning everyone in the world. With me is Iran's ambassador to talk about the ongoing situation. So welcome to WION. My first question to you is, what is Iran's policy, Iran's assessment regarding the situation in West Asia?
The Zionist regime is targeting people, hospital, schools, and no points of Palestine, Gaza Strip is safe. So we're now witnessing a catastrophe, a massacre in the region. Hamas is trying to defend its motherland. Unfortunately, they are calling Hamas a terrorist group. Hamas is not a terrorist group. Palestinians are not terrorists. They are defending themselves. They are defending families. They are defending their motherland. They are a resistance group. They are resistance. So they call Hamas terrorists to justify their atrocities against the people of Palestine. After these days, even Hamas declared that it's ready to stop or ceasefire. Still, ceaselessly, Israel is continue targeting innocent people in the region. So we believe that this conflict, the conflict of Palestine, the case of Palestine should be solved by referring to the vote of people of Palestine. It doesn't make any difference whether they are Muslim, they are Jews, they are Christians.
So, do you expect the region to be engulfed in wider crisis now? Now we have heard reports of even Houthis joining the conflict. So what's your assessment over the next phase, perhaps, in the ongoing situation in the West Asian region? Do you see more countries getting involved?
We hope not. We hope not. But, we hope that the atrocities of Zionist regime will stop. The crimes of Israel has made people, not only Muslim, but all over the world, have made them angry. Nowadays, you are witnessing demonstration all over the world: Australia, USA, UK, European countries, Arab countries, Muslim countries, and non-Muslim countries. So, Palestinian case issue is not just an Islamic issue. Sometimes the European country try to nominate it as an Arabic issue. But it is not an Arabic issue, it is not an Islamic issue, it is an issue of humanity.
Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to me.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I express my gratitude to the people of India through your camera.
Who will lead the Gaza peacekeeping force after the war is over? If the American plan for such a force is accepted, will China be America's partner or India? The answer to that could become a game changer in the world's most volatile and rich region for the next decade. What is the path to peace in the Gaza Strip? What is the plan for the future of Gaza? Will an international peacekeeping force even be sent to Gaza? Or in another scenario, will the Blue Beret, otherwise known as the United Nations peacekeepers, join the oversight headed by a neutral power like India? And we ask these questions because the Israel-Hamas war is intensifying, and with that, it's leading to rising concerns that it could spiral into a wider war. And with that, calls for peace are only growing louder. Just look at the headlines. Multiple leaders have criticized Israel after its forces attacked a refugee camp in North Gaza on Tuesday. Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar have condemned the Israeli strikes. The UAE, which diplomatically recognized Israel in 2020, called for a ceasefire and warned that the attacks will result in irreparable ramifications in the region. Saudi Arabia, in fact, has placed the responsibility on the international community. The Saudi Foreign Ministry has referred to the Jabalia attack as a consequence of the international community's failure to exert pressure on Israel to agree to an immediate ceasefire. Riyadh has also issued warnings about a potential humanitarian disaster for which it holds Israel and the international community accountable. Saudi officials have warned the US in recent days that the Israeli ground incursion into Gaza could be catastrophic for West Asia. In fact, last week, when 10 US senators met the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, in Riyadh to discuss the situation, officials had warned the US lawmakers Israel's ground operation would be, quote-unquote, extremely harmful. Saudi Arabia has been extremely vocal about its concerns that Israel operations could turn into a disaster for the entire region. And these tense exchanges come as tensions ripple outwards from the Gaza Strip. In the Gaza Strip, where Israel has launched a ground invasion to wipe out Hamas militant group, at least 8,525 Palestinians have died in the strikes. And as a result, furious protesters have taken to the streets across West Asia to express solidarity with the Palestinians, condemning Israel and the United States. And the thing is, no one wants a wider conflict. According to a few reports, in fact, the US and Israel are also exploring the possibility of a multinational force that may involve American troops as part of a peacekeeping force. Look, there are only a handful of options for the future of Gaza, if and when Israel's war to wipe out Hamas is over. Reportedly, the US and its Israeli allies are mulling the potential deployment of an international force in the Palestinian enclave, a peacekeeping force modeled on one that oversees a 1979 Egypt-Israel peace treaty. But these conversations are still at an early stage. A lot could change. Some US officials, in fact, consider the options unlikely. But these reports come at a time when the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, alluded to the challenge. He told a Senate panel that the US was studying a range of options for the future of Gaza. He categorically stated a reversion of the status quo, one with Hamas running the Palestinian enclave, is not going to happen. Blinken, who will reportedly travel to Israel on Friday, told this to the Senate Appropriations Committee. So if not Hamas, then will the Israelis run or control Gaza? Well, Blinken says no. So what's the way forward? And does it involve the US placing peacekeeping forces along with the Chinese? We know that US President Joe Biden and the Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to meet later this month. You see, China has pledged to do everything it can to help the peace efforts. Beijing says it firmly supports dialogue, achieving fast ceasefire and restoring peace. And given the warm ties built between the Chinese side and the Arab countries, could a peacekeeping force led by the American and the Chinese be a real possibility? And then there is another option, a peacekeeping force led by India. It is likely. In fact, India is closely watching the developments in southern Lebanon. Nearly 900 Indian soldiers are stationed as part of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, also known as UNIFIL. And what is the goal of the Indian soldiers? To maintain peace in the conflict zone. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon is responsible for monitoring the 110-kilometer blue line, one that has seen fierce confrontations between Israeli and Hezbollah forces. In the past, there are over 10,000 peacekeepers at this border from around 48 countries. And amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, the Indian soldiers in blue berets have reported incidents involving rockets and artillery fire. And if the situation worsens, the UNIFIL line could also see heavy shelling, leading to casualties. And that is why New Delhi is closely monitoring the situation. India can lead the peacekeeping efforts. And if there is a peacekeeping force that is sent into Gaza, there is another question that needs to be answered. Given the tense situation on the ground, what levels of armor and armament will they actually carry? Will it include air cover, tanks? Because you know peacekeepers do carry weapons, but they are only allowed to fight back when attacked. UN peacekeepers are sent to conflict areas to observe a ceasefire and keep enemies apart. These are the likely scenarios that could play out, according to experts. But US National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson recently told the news outlet Bloomberg that sending US troops to Gaza as part of a peacekeeping force is not something that is being considered or is under discussion. So if establishing a peacekeeping force does not happen, what is the other option at hand in Gaza? There is little evidence that the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, would be willing or able to take over Gaza. They're also reportedly unpopular among the Palestinians. If not the Palestinian Authority, will Israel reoccupy Gaza Strip if it succeeds in ousting Hamas? That is unlikely. For Israel, it will be a messy business governing Gaza, and for multiple reasons. For one, the ongoing strikes have hardened the Palestinian attitude to Israel. It would expose Israeli troops to violent resistance. Israeli officials have also repeatedly said that they do not intend to occupy Gaza, but they've also said that continued rule by Hamas is unacceptable. Look, amid the ongoing war, there are many questions. There are emerging possibilities, probable scenarios that are under active discussion and analysis. As the war unfolds, the dynamic situation may continue to evolve, and all we can do is wait and watch out for any potential shifts.